Hello, this is Tom for Tabletop Tap Room. We've got another Miniatures Monday happening on a Wednesday, but big project going on and just delay. So, Sci-Fi Domes on the cheap. Before I really get into that, let me show you a dome. This is something I made almost 2 decades ago for a terrain building contest. And it highlights a lot of the things I don't think should be done with a terrain piece. So let me just show you these videos, and because they become a little bit of a comparison. Let me hit play. So this is the Sci-Fi Dome I built as part of a terrain building contest. I'm not even sure I placed in this particular contest. And pause that. Here's the inside. You can see the inside, and now this is subdivided into rooms. You got the main room where there's a little kitchenette and there's some wall lockers and stuff, and then there's a little bedroom and a bathroom that's in here. It's got the dollhouse effect. It's hard to put a lot of figures in here and move them around, because, that computer chair can come out, yes, but it's got the dollhouse effect. You've got the walls, you got to reach past the walls. I hate this. So when I approached this Sci-Fi Dome project with this new way of doing them, as opposed to this, because this was a lot of work, and you don't want a lot of work. You want it quick and dirty. You want, some of you might want a lot of work. Maybe some of you aspire to enter into terrain building contests and want to build stuff like this. Hey, more power to you. But what we're going to be doing is quick and dirty, easy stuff. And what I found were these, here's a photo of these Easter eggs. And I walked into Walmart, and I'm looking at this egg, and I'm thinking, oh, the bottom half of this egg was a 10-inch plastic egg. Would be perfect for a Sci-Fi Dome. The top has got that egg shape going on, not so much. That's all right. Still cheap enough that I don't feel like I'm paying a lot of money for this thing. And so I bought it. And then I got thinking, I says, I really might need to get a second one and have multiple domes on the table. And so I went back to Walmart, and lo and behold, because they had that 10-inch one, now they had the jumbo. Now the 10-inch was like about 7.5 inches in diameter, but the jumbo was like 10 inches in diameter. And I was like, yeah, we're going with the jumbo. Now I'm going to put some links in the show notes, some affiliate links, because I found some of these products on Amazon. The Walmart is the only place I found that jumbo plastic egg. So I'm trying to get this video out in time so that you say, oh, dude, I like that. I want to do that. You can hop on down to your local Walmart and get it before Easter is up, and then stuff's gone. So I'm trying to be timely with these builds and get these things out before the holiday passes, because I was notorious for buying stuff after Halloween when it was marked down, and then, oh, well, it's not so timely and people aren't going to be able to get the product that I used. So I'm trying to be really timely with this. But I strongly encourage you, shop local. Shop at your local hobby store, whether it's Michael's or Hobby Lobby or your friendly neighborhood game store. Please shop local. Just right now, Joann Fabric's going out of business, so you want to shop there because everything's like 30 to 50% off. And I actually got some stuff for this build that 50% off, so I was like, score. And finally, I just want to say thanks for watching the video, and thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And don't forget that like, subscribe, and bell icon that helps me build the channel. Now, let's dig into this sci-fi build. Not every aspect of what you see here in these photos at the end is necessarily what the build is about, because I grabbed some pieces, a dish antenna, and I put it on the roof of the dome, and that was built years ago. So there's a few things. I put one of my little garden gnomes that I did last week. I put it in the garden section of this biological dome. So not everything you see is part of the build. It's just we're going to be talking about doing a quick and dirty sci-fi build and doing it in a way that you avoid the mistakes that I made in that terrain building contest when I really built a dollhouse that is not very playable. And so I'm here to show you how to do this playable. So I pulled up a picture here, found two jumbo just now as I was prepping for this video, found two jumbo plastic Easter eggs, 10 inches in diameter. Well, these could be 10 in length. I am not sure. But the Walmart jumbo ones were like $5 for one. This is 2 for $16 on Amazon. So you really want to just, if you want to do this project, you want to go by, and the Walmart ones, I think were actually bigger, much bigger, because the bottom half of the egg actually had too much space. I had to actually cut it to make it a proper dome. It looked odd with that big high wall and then dome. And this looks like it's just you're gonna pull that bottom off and flip it over and it's a dome, boom. So these products are out there. I really recommend you just, if you're interested, you get one at Walmart. And they were cheaper than what I'm finding on Amazon at Walmart. So yeah, there we go. So this product now, this photo, and yeah, I grabbed one of the kids' books because my box of skinks from Warhammer Fantasy wasn't quite high enough so I grabbed a kid's book, and then I slapped a permanent marker down on the book and then just turned the egg so that I made a nice serious mark all the way around, and then I took it outside and cut it with a Dremel and a cutting wheel. Now, the reason why I went outside, I started in the kitchen, but the fumes from cutting this plastic, whatever it is, with that Dremel, I could tell right away, like, whoo, get this outside, not good. And yeah, you see my eyewear. I was actually good about eyewear this time around. So originally I thought, and you can see my cursor moving here, this was the original 10-inch egg that I bought. It's got a nice flat bottom, so I thought, perfect, I'm going to put a little thing on top, and there'll be like a communications dish on this dome, and that'll be cool. And so I just thought I was going to use this. Then I got thinking, I said, wait a minute. And after I trimmed this at this here and got rid of the bottom half, which really makes this look eggish, and trimmed it down, I'm like, I'm going to get 2 domes out of each one of these. So I'm going to have a total of 4 domes. Plus I got that other project from 20 years ago from the terrain building contest. So I got 5 domes to slap on a convention table for Star Frontiers game at some point in the future. I just got to write an adventure for that. Probably it's going to be some sort of a dungeon crawl type of thing where they're crawling through one dome to the next. And so you, even with it being egg shape, you can still get the 2 domes. You're going to cut it, and you can see here on the big dome that I trimmed away. I did that thing with the box and the marker and put a nice mark, and then I just carefully cut it with that cutting wheel on the Dremel. And yeah, so I'm going to get 4 domes out of this. Moving on to the next picture. Now this is a base I started for the original dome. This base is foam core, and I just put the dome on there, started drawing and tracing. I decided this little 2-inch wide area here would be like a garage entrance, and that I was going to take a blister from a large WizKids miniature, and I was going to pour plaster in it and that would be the garage, because the blisters, if you look at that plastic blister, it looks like a sci-fi building. It looks like a garage. So I actually, sadly, I did not have dental plaster on hand, and I just used this. I just used regular plaster. Not advisable. Get the dental plaster. I kind of regret it, but I persisted with it, and I actually pushed into the blister a small square section of the high density foam, and then put something on it heavy to help keep that pushed down inside there. It was a little close to one edge, and because it wasn't dental plaster, it was a little fragile. So I actually had to take some Magic Sculpt and try to fill in a bubble and fill in where the edge crumbled a little bit on my little garage. And this, now I know I said no dollhouse, no putting stuff inside, leave it open space so you can move miniatures around in there. I went ahead and did, you can see little flower beds here. You can actually move the miniatures on top of those flower beds. It's not much of a up step. It's only 3/8 of an inch going up to the top of that flower bed. So I got these raised beds, and I just did it by cutting a piece of cardstock till it fit my little space. All of these are 7/8 inch cardstock that have been cut on a nice rotary cutter, and I just glue them down as a rough grid, and so they look like floor tiles. I scooped out this area of the foam core and put granny grade in there with the it's for stitching, doing like arts and craft. They call it granny grading. I'll probably have a link for it in the show notes. And then I just did a little drain cover on it to hide the edges, and it looks good. And because there's space underneath that granny, open space underneath there, you have the it looks like it's like a real drain going down, and so you get that effect with it by using a foam core, which is roughly, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch thick anyhow. And then when I started building the base, I then used this piece that I actually used to trace on my foam core. I then cut out the inside, and then that was the piece I glued down on top of the flower bed after gluing in. Now these here little plants came off of a flower. I got 50% off at Joann Fabrics, which is going out of business. I just grabbed some of their floral plastic flowers, and I ripped that off, cut that right off the top, and I was like, yeah, it looks like some sort of plant you grow in a greenhouse. And I also had a bag of coconut trees that my wife had seen at like a second store, one of those clearance stores. I really think these were intended for cake decorating. So I have a bag of like 50 of these, and I've only used about 6 or 7 in my model building. And I thought, one tree, coconuts will provide coconut oil for the people growing food in this dome. Dome, that'll be good. And so and these are some of the tuft from the Army Painter system. The tufts of grass. These are actually jungle tufts. Nice green color, and I glued them in. And now also you can see it at the edge of the picture here. Over the years, I'd be in a place and I saw that they had little corn stalks and little flowers for diorama building, and I just bought one package. One package was not enough. So and it got me thinking back to my plumbing partner, Eddie Speciale. If we needed something, he'd buy 2. I mean, if it was critical, mission critical, and there was a chance you could screw up with that thing and you got to cut it out, he would just buy 2, and the extra one would be in the van. And so you'd be on some other job, and we'd be like, oh yeah, we got another one of those things. I just bought one and said, maybe I'll use it sometime in the future. I went to use it, not enough corn stalks. So I kind of mixed corn stalks and sunflowers, and I got I got 2 sunflowers left over here. Because they weren't enough for what I did with these flower beds. And I wish I had just bought 2. And so in the future, note to self, buy 2. just in case, because you know one's not going to be enough. So here's another view of a flower bed before I glued it down inside the dome. And again, lots of different textures on that base. I glued down sand grit on the outside and painted it. I glued down cardstock tiles with the little space because they were only 7/8 inch, and so I kind of spaced them out. So it gives you a nice eyeball grid for moving miniatures, if you care, and if you're being tactical at all. Let's move over to now. Here I'm working on the doors. And now I've cut out the door out of foam core, but I've also cut out, now I cut out and traced on the cardstock and did the same thing because I'm two-sided on either side of that plastic dome. And then I glued cardstock on the back side of the foam core so that the door appears to swing open into the dome. So again, it's two-sided. I'm gluing it on both sides of the plastic. And then because the foam core's got that nice edge where the foam, I lined it with a thin strip, just, put some cardstock on the rotary cutter and cut off some strips, 3/8 inch, I think is the thickness of the foam core. And I just hot glued it around and hot glued one inside the door. Now, what you can see here, you see the ghosted lines, 1/2 inch ghosted lines. These suck to paint. They bleed through on one little coat of paint. I'm using Apple Barrel and Folk Art paints, which are student quality, means less pigment. So definitely, if you're using foam core, you want to make sure the presentation side is not the side with the ghosted lines. I love the ghosted lines, particularly when I'm gluing down tiles on the base. But these bleed through, and it sucked to be me trying to paint them. I had to do like 4 coats of paint. So just note to self for you, be careful about that. This is my poured plaster using a blister from a large Whiz Kids Mini. Looks like a garage, and I've been thinking about doing this where I was going to pour it, be able to just put it on the sci-fi gaming table, and it's a garage. And some of the smaller ones are like smaller outbuildings, with like a bulkhead hatch, and you go down the stairs into the building, and it's mostly underground. And so then I could just put out some outbuildings, and eventually they're going to end up underground, and we'll just switch to a vinyl map, and I'm drawing out the tunnels or again, UDT, Professor Dungeon Master's UDT. I've been doing a little bit more with the UDT and I really like it, but I had been thinking about pouring some of these blisters and using them as buildings. And so here we go. This was our first test, and it didn't mate up with the building because of the door. So what I'm going to actually do is do a 1-inch strip of of the poster board cardstock and just hot glue it down over here. And now I went and got this material here. It's like some kind of chicken wire with these little 1/4-inch squares. And I love this. And so you see I've cut one here to be a ladder. I wanted a ladder going up to the top of the dome and having a communication dish up there. So you see I've actually pushed it real hard at the top into the cardstock that I glued down to the dome. And then I started dotting and I drilled through with a very small, I got an even smaller drill bit. And because this wire is smaller than paperclip wire. And then drilled through and then pushed it all through and then anointed it with not the holy water, but with the holy super glue. And it all stayed in place nice. And you also see here that when I hot glued the doors, because I was thinking like this is a dome, it's a pressure dome, you got to have an airlock. So you have that garage functions as an airlock. I used some my magic sculpt to try to hide the fact that the dome is curved and my foam core didn't want to curve with it so much. So I just hid that little crack, and then I painted this up in gray. This was my topper, did granny grading, and rather than have to paint the foam core I used as a base here, I used black foam core, so I didn't have to paint it. And and then I put a couple of supporting pieces in there that gave me that space up, so there's space underneath there. And I just hot glued this down to the top, and I can slap a communication dish I've already built as scatter terrain up there, or power generator, or some solar cells. So, and then here I am drilling into the my little garage, my Whiz Kids blister that I poured it. I cut off the back of it to get rid of the backside and try to get a little bit of a curve, but it just wasn't mating up. So I did that cardstock, and now I'm drilling in, and instead of putting a ladder, I'm putting these little railings. Because OSHA says you got to have railings, people don't fall off the building. So right there we go. Drilling in, got it all lined up. Here is the finished product. Now you see that I intended another building on the back here. And here's what happened with that. You'll see a little video where I show you what happened. But yeah, I wanted two entrances, kind of Janelle Jaquays sort of idea going on here, two ways to get in and around. And I got miniatures in there moving around. There's one of my garden gnomes. And this spot where the garden gnome is sitting on top of like a little power generator is I intended that spot to be open so that I could, put a little shack there, put a beehive there, because I thought, pollinators in this little dome, and then they'd have access to honey as well as the food they're growing. A little tool shack, water barrels could go in here. So I left this space open. I could just drop stuff in there. It's part of the plan. There's my guy going, look at that garden gnome, deciding to shoot it with his gun. And some AT-43 figures moving around inside. And now here we see this, pause that. This was another little piece of plastic that I thought, I'm going to pour plaster into this, and it'll be like a little tunnel coming off the backside. And it kind of, I didn't like it because, one, it got a little dent in it from the plastic, and it kind of looks like a piece of human anatomy. So I just didn't like the look of it and decided something else was going to have to be crafted. But I wanted to get the video out so that it was out in time for Easter, before Easter, so you could get this product, these big jumbo eggs, large eggs. So I've actually switched out for this little doorway that I had painted up, and I'm just going to hand wave that that's an effective airlock. But I will be building a little something to go there, and put another exit here, or put a little hatch counter so that you go down this tunnel and then you go down the hatch and then you're into the underground. So I've got options with this, and this is my biggest dome. And here's a little view of it. Figures approaching it. I've actually got a computer screen in there right now. And let's go inside. Here we are. There's a computer screen. I made that a while ago. And you can see my corn stalks and my sunflowers and all my other plants that they're growing. And different things drop into that nice little space that I left for myself. And the figures can still move around. And of course, there's a garden gnome because it's a garden. So this was my Sci-Fi Domes on the cheap. Not the work involved that the original dome that I showed you at the beginning was. This is Sci-Fi Domes on the cheap. Thanks for watching the video. This is Tom for Tabletop Taproom. Don't forget that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Leave a comment below if you like what I'm doing. Drop a suggestion what you'd like to see. I would be, you know, I might have actually done that. But again, I strongly encourage you not to have walls that you have to reach over and around, not to junk up the inside of a terrain piece with walls and rooms. You get a dollhouse effect. Nice open piece. The other domes, I'm just going to leave them largely open. And so, you know, they won't even have gardens. They'll just be largely open. I'll have my little tile texture down in there. Characters can move around. I might drop different things. You know, this dome is a supply dome. This dome has, you know, some beds in it. This dome, you know, different things. I can drop them in my little pieces of sci-fi scatter terrain. Very usable. And this should see the light of day at a convention at some point for a Star Frontiers game because, hey, sci-fi domes are cool and I like them. So Tom signing out, and keep on gaming.